In today's episode, we're going to help you guys not only identify what may be causing your back pain or excessive fatigue of your lower back on long duration dirt bike rides, we're going to show you how to fix it. So number one, we want to take a look at our riding technique. It's super common that riders will experience either pain or excessive fatigue when they are riding the dirt bike for long durations. Now, a cause of this could be our riding technique and our body position. So if our attack position when we're standing on the dirt bike, if we're letting our knees come forward, we're perhaps hunching a little bit, rounding out through our lower back, what that means is we might not be placing much tension in our posterior chain, our glutes and our hamstrings when our knees come forward. As soon as the knees bend, we start to lose tension in the hamstrings and the glutes when they sort of come forward. So what that can mean is they're not supporting the lower back as much as they could be if we're in a little bit more of a stricter hinge position, as I call it, where the shins staying a little bit more vertical, the hips are back, and our chest is hinging forward, which is that traditional attack position where in this position, we should feel some tension in our hamstrings and our glutes. And what that means is they're taking a lot of the load and supporting the lower back. Now, of course, our lower back is working whichever position we're in. However, if we're spending a lot of time standing on the dirt bike, then being in this proper attack position is going to allow the big muscles like our hamstrings and our glutes to actually do their job and support the lower back. So this would be like the number one thing you want to be looking at. Get a video, get one of your mates to video you, or get someone to video you while you're riding, and just take a look at your riding technique, because this would be the first thing that you could work on that will most likely improve your endurance in these positions on the dirt bike. Once we get that dialed, then we can work on strengthening these positions. The most common thing I see with clients when they first come and start training with me, if they are doing any existing training, a lot of the time they'll be doing squats, lunges, walking lunges, split squats, these types of knee dominant, sort of quad dominant exercises. They're all great exercises, don't get me wrong. If you're doing them, keep doing them. They're great exercises. We want to be performing them in our strength program to strengthen our quads and our knees, etc. However, most people avoid posterior chain strength training. Essentially, we just want to balance our strength program out with a similar amount of those sort of knee dominant squat variations, lunge variations, split squats. We want to kind of balance that out with a similar amount of posterior chain work. So think things like RDLs and all of the different RDL variations, really, really good for building capacity in the hamstrings, the glutes, the lower back. Harrop curl is another good one. It's a very simple one, a body weight exercise, which is a strict hinge. So it's really good for learning just how to hinge strictly at the hips. Pretty demanding, deceiving exercise. Looks very simple. You can also load them. You can hold a plate or a dumbbell on your chest and actually load a Harrop curl. Great exercise. So we've got those different RDL variations, a Harrop curl, things like bent over rows, pendlay rows I'm a big fan of. That's obviously an upper body exercise, but any of these sort of compound movements where we're in a hinge position, really, really good for building up capacity in the posterior chain. Teaching us essentially to get into a good hinge position and also get some tension into the hamstrings and the glutes and build capacity to tolerate load in these positions. A lot of the time, that's going to clear things up for most people, is just strengthening these positions so you can tolerate load in these positions, because we are copying a lot of force on the dirt bike when we're obviously going from sitting to standing as well. But as everyone that rides a dirt bike knows, especially as the terrain gets rougher, we need to be standing on the dirt bike. So we're in that attack position for a long, long time when we're riding our dirt bike. So we need to be able to tolerate force there. So very simply, just having a foundation of lower body strength that does include our squat patterns and also includes a good balance of posterior chain and hinge work to strengthen all those muscles. Number 3 would be our core training. So this is like a little bit of the icing on the cake. Again, I've mentioned it in previous videos, but these sort of compound strength movements, we are sort of training the core to be more in this sort of stable, braced position. There's not much movement going on in the core when we're performing these compound lifts. That's a good thing. Like, we're getting that side of our training. When it comes to training the core specifically, I like to include exercises where we're actually moving our core. Again, anyone who's ridden a dirt bike knows we're not rigid on the dirt bike, where there is like a bit of this movement going on. And when that bike sort of steps out or gets sideways, our core has to correct that. And it has to be able to move and pull the bike back into alignment underneath us. So exercises like Copenhagen dips, getting that lateral flexion. Simple ones, leg raises. Great for the hip flexors as well. And then landmine rotations is another good one, getting a little bit of that sort of rotation, flexion through the core and the lower back. So again, it's just we're just exposing the muscles around the core and the lower back to some different ranges of strength and some various positions. So we're just sort of building this sort of, I guess, environment where we're exposing the lower back and all of the muscles around it to various different positions, various different loads at various different velocities. So it just gives us a well-rounded base to prepare us for what we're going to face on the dirt bike. And number 4 would be just a little one to cap it off, which is a little bit of a bonus tip, would be working on mobilizing these areas. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we spend a lot of time in this attack position, standing on the dirt bike, which is really demanding on the hips, hamstrings, the lower back, etc. So if we're spending a lot of time on our dirt bike riding in these positions, you're probably driving, spending a lot of time traveling to get to and from these riding destinations, or weekends away racing, or riding with your mates, spending hours sitting down in a car. You might be doing some training, some repetitive motion, cycling, rowing, running, these types of things for cardio potentially. All of these things kind of add up to like creating this environment where we can potentially get a little bit tight in these areas in the lower back and the hips. So including some mobility exercises to free these areas up. A few of my favorites are just like for the glutes would be like a 90-90 stretch or a pigeon stretch. For the hips, the hip flexors would be like a couch stretch or a hip opening side bend. They're just a couple of real simple ones. How I like to run that for my clients and my programs is we include these as active rest in every strength workout. So we're accumulating volume over every session that we do. So you don't really have to find time in your week to dedicate to doing a stretch session or a mobility session. We incorporate into every session. So in every strength session, we'd be incorporating those things that I just touched on, like some compound strength work, some strength work for the core, and then the mobility component as well. So we're touching on all of those qualities in every single session. So hopefully that gives you some guidance on where to start if you are experiencing some trouble in those areas with back fatigue, back pain when you're riding your dirt bike. If you want to get strong, build stamina, and dominate the dirt bike for 3 full hours, check out the Race Ready Live program. It's been built for you to take the guesswork out of your training and is based on the exact same programming I provide for my pro level clients who have won GNCC, American National Enduro, and AORC championships. It's provided in a format that allows you to scale the program to your current ability and personalize your schedule based on how many hours you can train each week right inside the Race Ready app. For more information, check out the link in the show notes.